On my wedding day, my parents tried to give my aisle to my sister. She showed up in a white dress. But when the doors opened and the music started, it wasn't her walking down that aisle. It was me. And the look on their faces when they realized what I'd done? That moment was 15 years of pain, paid in full. If you've ever been treated unfairly, if someone's ever made you feel like you didn't matter, hit that like button. Because today, you're about to hear how I finally stood up to the family that never saw me. Until it was too late. I'm writing this on my honeymoon. My husband's across the table, grinning like a man who just watched Karma in high definition. He keeps saying, "Babe, you've got to tell Reddit. They won't believe this." So here I am, finally letting it all out. Ever since I can remember, my parents loved my sister more. And I don't mean in subtle ways. If she accused me of something, I got punished. If I accused her, they said I was lying. If I got good grades, they shrugged. If she got a B, we had a party. Even on my birthdays, the cake flavor was hers. She wanted chocolate fudge, I hated it, but every year, there it was, and every year they said, "Oh, we forgot." I learned early, my role in that house wasn't to be loved, it was to be compared. By the time we were teenagers, she had no friends. And instead of asking why, she decided to take mine. She'd spread rumors, tell my parents my friends were bad influences. And soon enough, I wasn't allowed out anymore. My world shrank to my bedroom walls. But the worst part wasn't being trapped, it was knowing no one would believe me. I could have had video proof of her lying and my parents would still find a way to make it my fault. I used to lie awake at night wondering what I'd done wrong to deserve that kind of love. When I got my first boyfriend, I didn't even want to bring him home. But my parents insisted, said it was family tradition. And of course, my sister pounced. She came downstairs in the skimpiest outfit she owned, flipped her hair, and started whispering to him about how difficult I was. When he pulled away, she ran crying to my parents, saying he had tried to flirt with her. Guess who got grounded? Guess who got called a disappointment? Yeah, me. It happened again with the next boyfriend. Same trick. Same punishment. Eventually, my parents told me I just had bad judgment with men, that I should be more like my sister. You know, the one who couldn't keep a single relationship herself. By the time college came around, I already knew what was coming. They paid for her tuition, full ride, no questions asked. When it was my turn, they suddenly couldn't afford it. They told me to get a job instead. Said I could maybe go later, after my sister finished. Oh, and if I stayed home, I'd have to pay rent. I smiled, nodded, and said, okay. They didn't know I'd been preparing for years. That every night they ignored me, I was studying. That every cruel word they said was fuel. I earned a full scholarship, not to some Ivy League, but good enough to buy my freedom. And when I announced it online, I tagged them. Publicly thanked them for always believing in me. They couldn't forbid me from going without looking like monsters. So they smiled for the cameras, and glared when no one was watching. College was the first time I could breathe. No eggshells. No guilt trips. No sister. I learned how it felt to be liked for who I was. And that's when I met him, my now husband. He was everything I wasn't allowed to be. Bold, unapologetic, unafraid of conflict. When someone crossed a line, he didn't flinch, he crossed back. He made me feel safe. He made me feel seen. And when we got engaged, we decided to keep it simple. Small ceremony, big honeymoon. But since most of my extended family lived near my hometown, we agreed to hold the wedding there. I should have known that would invite trouble. Because the moment my parents found out, they demanded to meet the man who stole their daughter. My husband grinned. Perfect, he said. Let's give them the chance. What I didn't know was that before he left, he slipped a recorder into his jacket pocket. When he came back that night, his eyes were practically glowing. Babe, he said, you won't believe the shit they just said. He sat me down, pressed play, and I heard it. My parents' voices, calm and deliberate. We'll pay for your wedding, my mother said. But on one condition. Your fiancé's sister, my father added, will walk down the aisle first. In a wedding dress. They called it a symbolic gesture. Said it wasn't proper for the younger sister to marry before the older one. They wanted my wedding day to be her rehearsal. I felt sick. For a second, I thought maybe I'd misheard. Then I heard my sister giggle and say, "Oh, don't worry. I'll let her have the smaller cake." My husband just watched me, calm as a bomb. And then he smiled. "Babe," he whispered, "let's give them everything they asked for, and make sure they regret it." The plan was simple. He'd pretend to agree. He went back to my parents and told them I was a little emotional, but he thought he could handle me. He said I had trust issues from past relationships, that I might check his phone, so they couldn't ever text or email him about the plan. Everything had to be in person. They fell for it instantly. Over the next few months, he played them like a piano. He'd secretly take my sister to taste test menus, and sigh about how I didn't want to take advantage of their generosity. Cue my sister demanding they pay for the most expensive options. They upgraded everything: the venue, the catering, the flowers, even the photographer. He even let them pick a hideous, compromise wedding dress, which I of course refused in a conveniently traceable text, to protect us later. Every visit he made, he came home laughing, shaking his head. "I swear," he said, "I've never seen people so eager to dig their own graves." The morning of the wedding felt calm. Too calm. I'd been waiting for this day my whole life, not just the marriage, but the moment I'd finally stop being the family punching bag. We had one extra guest that day, a security guard. His one job: do not, under any circumstances, let my sister in. As guests arrived, everything seemed perfect. My parents smiled too wide. My dad kept checking his phone. They thought they were about to watch me humiliated. When the bridal music started, I saw him move toward the aisle, waiting. Because according to their plan, that was when my sister was supposed to enter. Except, she didn't. The doors opened, and there I was. For a split second, my father's smile froze. Then his face drained of color. He looked behind me, nothing. His phone buzzed. I saw the caller ID, my sister. He muttered, "Something's come up," and walked out, leaving me standing there in front of everyone. My heart cracked. Even after everything, I hadn't expected that. But before the pain could swallow me, my husband's best friend, who was in on the plan, shouted from the crowd, "Wait, what did he mean by 'it wasn't supposed to be you'?" People gasped. Whispers rippled through the room. I just took a deep breath and walked down that aisle, tears stinging my eyes but a smile building with every step. Because I knew what was happening outside. Out in the parking lot, my sister had arrived, in a full wedding gown. She was screaming at the security guard, who calmly told her there was already a bride inside. My dad was threatening to call the police. My mom was crying. Guests started stepping out, drawn by the chaos. My husband eventually went out too, to see what was happening. And that's when he delivered the final blow. He denied everything. When my parents accused him of agreeing to the plan, he crossed his arms and said, "Are you hearing yourselves? Why the hell would I agree to that?" They stammered. "You said not to text you." He smiled. "Oh, how convenient. No proof." My sister screamed that he'd lied to them. He tilted his head and said, "Yeah, that sounds like a you problem." They were surrounded by relatives by then, every aunt, every cousin, all watching. And for the first time, everyone saw my parents and sister for what they really were. My dad went pale. My mom tried to explain. My sister dropped to the ground, crying and kicking like a toddler. They got escorted out. When I walked back down that aisle after the ceremony, I felt lighter than I'd ever felt before. My husband was beaming, whispering, "That was better than I imagined." Later, at the reception, I saw people sneaking out to check the chaos, then coming back in to tell others what happened. But no one told me directly. Everyone just smiled, hugged me, and said, "You look radiant." For the first time, it really was my day. A week later, my sister sent me an unhinged text, called my husband a snake, blamed me for everything, and swore we'd get what's coming. My husband took screenshots of everything, the missed calls, the texts, and sent them to the entire family group chat, with a message that said, "Please help us stop this harassment. We just want peace on our honeymoon. Also, please don't tell them where we are. I'd hate for them to show up and claim I agreed to pretend to cheat on my wife in our suite." He even added a crying laughing emoji. My relatives lost it. Since then, silence. And I mean total silence. People ask me why my parents treated me that way. Honestly, I don't know. Maybe I was an accident. Maybe my sister was their golden child. But it doesn't matter anymore. Because for the first time in my life, I'm free. And the best part? I didn't have to yell. I didn't have to fight. I just let them trap themselves in their own lie. While I walked down the aisle they tried to steal. I used to think revenge meant screaming, "I told you so." Now I know, sometimes, the sweetest revenge is silence. Just watching people realize they can't hurt you anymore. If that ending gave you chills, hit that like button, because it means you've got a little bit of justice in your soul too. Tell me in the comments, what's the most satisfying revenge you've ever witnessed? And don't forget to subscribe for more stories like this, where karma doesn't miss. Because sometimes, you don't need to fight fire with fire. You just let it burn itself out.